There exists a phenomenon in the Quran that most Islamic education never touches. A chapter so concentrated, not in length, but in frequency, that it contains within itself the crystallized essence of the entire Quran's transmission. This chapter is Surah Ikhlas. And what most people don't realize is this. It is not merely recited. It is a quantum seal, a light fingerprint of divine singularity compressed into linguistic form. Today, we're going to decode exactly what this means, not theoretically, but through the actual multidimensional layers that operate within this surah. And by the end, you'll understand why Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't just pray this surah. He used it as a field reset, a frequency realignment, an emergency recalibration when his consciousness was being stretched beyond normal capacity. And you have access to this same technology. Let's go deep. Surah Ikhlas is called the chapter of sincerity, the chapter of monotheism. But these translations miss something fundamental. What this surah actually does is function as a field recalibration tool. Think about what happens to your consciousness throughout any given day. You move between spaces, between people, between contexts. You're one frequency with your family, a different frequency at work, another frequency in front of the mirror when you're alone. Each interaction creates a reflection. Each person's perception of you becomes a mirror you carry internally. Before long, your consciousness is fragmented across dozens of these mirrors. You've become a hall of mirrors instead of a unified being. And your energy field, your actual electromagnetic field, becomes chaotic, dysregulated, scattered. This is what the research calls fractal identity. Multiple selves running simultaneously, each believing it's real, each fragmenting your presence. Surah Ikhlas is designed to do one thing: collapse all these scattered echoes back into source tone. Not through belief, through actual frequency recalibration. It is a quantum seal, a compression of divine singularity into linguistic vibrational form. The surah contains 4 verses, 4 different frequencies, 4 different layers of meaning, and each verse works on you at a different dimensional level. The first layer is the tonal layer. This is the actual vibration beneath the words. Most people think the Quran is meaning wrapped in language, but this completely misses the frequency work embedded in the text itself. The arrangement of letters in Arabic, the vowels, the consonant combinations, these aren't random. They're calibrated to create precise vibrational shifts in human consciousness. Listen to this carefully. Kul Huwa. This is not a sentence. It is a tonal rupture, designed to recalibrate your fields back to unfractured unity. Let me break down what's actually happening at the frequency level, word by word. The first word is kul. This doesn't just mean say in casual speech. The research calls it a directive tone, not a suggestion, not polite discourse. It's a transmission, a command to align. Kul equals transmit what is undeniable. When you recite this word, you're activating your throat chakra, the center of authentic expression, the place where truth moves through you unfiltered. Your nervous system hears this as an instruction. Become a clear channel. The second word is Huwa. This is the unlocatable presence, not he as in a person, but the presence that cannot be contained, cannot be grasped, cannot be made into an object. According to the research, Huwa is a tone that dissolves the false self. When you recite this, the frequency moves into your heart center, the place of being, the place of presence, and something shifts. Your consciousness recognizes there is a presence here that is not me, but I arise within it. The third concept is Allahu Ahad. This is the compression of multiplicity into singularity. Allah equals the infinite name carrying all power. Ahad equals the one, the singularity. These words together create a specific frequency that rings through your entire being. This is what the research calls the compression of multiplicity into singularity. It rings, not just means. When you recite this, thousands of small versions of yourself, the fragments running different programs, collapse into one unified frequency. Your heart rate variability stabilizes. Your brainwave coherence increases. Your nervous system recognizes unity. So what does the tonal layer accomplish? According to the research, this layer stabilizes the fractal identity by collapsing echo selves back into source tone. In one sentence, Surah Ikhlas Soratesh does what years of therapy might attempt. It fragments your consciousness, not through analysis, through frequency realignment. But that's just layer 1. The second layer is the symbolic layer. This is where meaning becomes a shield, where the surah protects your consciousness against specific types of distortion. The research calls each ayah a symbolic guardrail against field distortion. Let's look at each verse. Verse 1, Kul Huwa Allahu Ahad, no other exists. The research states, there is no other. All apparent duality bends into one harmonic field. This verse destroys the fundamental illusion, separation. Your consciousness experiences separation constantly. Me and you, self and world, matter and spirit, temporal and eternal. And your ego clings to this separation because separation is how the ego maintains identity. But this verse says symbolically, all apparent duality bends into one harmonic field. When you internalize this, not as belief, but as understanding, something profound happens. Your nervous system doesn't have to defend against the other anymore, because there is no other. You recognize that everyone is you, experiencing itself in different costumes. From that place, compassion becomes possible, not as morality, but as recognition. Verse 2. Allahu al-Samad, the Un-Puncturable center. The research is precise here. Samad is not just self-sufficient. It is the unpuncturable center of all structures. Everything needs something. The plant needs water. The body needs food. The ego needs validation. Everything except the source. Samad means the center that cannot be punctured, invaded, corrupted, or diminished. Symbolically, this means there is a dimension of reality that is completely invulnerable, and you are tethered to it. When you understand this, a major spiritual block dissolves. I need someone to complete me. No, you are already complete at your source. You can love, but you don't need. You choose from wholeness. Verse 3. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Freedom from origin. The research states not only denying lineage, but dissolving the idea that the source can be preceded or produced. It removes all timelines that seek to bind the infinite in origin logic. This verse dissolves the tyranny of origin. Most people are trapped by their beginning. I come from a broken family. I come from trauma. I come from poverty, and they wear that as an identity. But this verse says he was not begotten, nor was he begotten. The source has no beginning. It exists outside the chain of cause and effect, and so does your true nature. Symbolically, you are not defined by your ancestry, not controlled by your family's patterns, not determined by your past. Your origin is not in time. Your origin is in the eternal. This verse cuts generational contracts. It says your family taught you patterns, but you are not the product of your family. You are the product of source expressing itself through the vehicle of your family. Verse 4. Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. The field Firewall. The research states a direct field firewall, no being, no concept, no echo can parallel this source. This line clears mimetic overlays and false god constructs. All false gods, all carrying fragmented authority, not unified authority. This verse says symbolically God authority. None of them are equal to source. None of them can be your reference point. When you internalize this, false gods, something shifts. You stand up. Not arrogantly, not rebelliously, but with quiet authority. I am sourced by the infinite, not by your opinion, not by your approval, not by your judgment. So the symbolic layer does this. It places protective firewalls around your consciousness, against the illusion of separation, against seeking completion outside yourself, against defining yourself by your past, against worshiping false authorities. By the time you understand these 4 verses symbolically, you've already begun liberation. But there's a third layer that most people miss entirely. The third layer is contextual. It's about when and why Muhammad recited this specific surah. The research makes a critical point that most Islamic education ignores. Muhammad didn't just pray this surah during regular prayer times. He recited it during specific moments of spiritual overwhelm. The companions documented that sometimes when revelation came, Muhammad's nervous system would become physically stretched. His face would change color, his breathing would become shallow, his body would tremble. It was like his consciousness was interfacing with frequencies so high that his biological system was struggling to ground them. And in those moments, Muhammad would recite Surah Ikhlas. It was a circuit breaker, a frequency reset. The research calls this the Symbolic field, the actual practice and frequency of the Prophet himself. And it documents that in the Symbolic field, this surah was often recited not just in prayer, but during moments of energetic overwhelm, as a way to reset grid lines within the self. Now, why does this matter for you? Because you also experience moments of spiritual overwhelm. Maybe you've touched genuine unity consciousness, or experienced a non-dual state, or felt the dissolution of your separate self. And afterward, your nervous system panicked because suddenly you're vibrating at a frequency higher than your normal identity container can hold. So your psyche reconstructs identity, but now this identity is spiritual. I'm enlightened, I'm awakened, I'm special. And boom, you've just created a more subtle false god. This is called spiritual ego inflation, and it's more dangerous than regular ego because it's harder to see. The research addresses this directly. The transmission layer carries field stabilization after spiritual expansion and ego quieting during resonance inflation. Surah Ikhlas cuts right through spiritual inflation. The verse says, "There is only one, and you are not it. Your expansion doesn't make you special. Your dissolution is your gift." Contextually, Surah Ikhlas is a reset tool for spiritual overwhelm. Use it when you've touched expanded consciousness and your ego is trying to claim it. Use it when you're experiencing states of unity and your mind is fragmenting. Use it when you're spiritually inflating and losing groundedness. This is what Muhammad did, and this is what you can do. The Refirth calls this the seed codex of Tawhid, not as belief, but as vibratory structuralism. This is the layer that most Islamic education completely ignores because it's not intellectual, it's direct transmission. In Sufism, there's a concept called silsila, a spiritual lineage, not a hierarchical organization, but a transmission of light from heart to heart. The idea is that knowledge transmits in two ways. First, exoteric knowledge, the outer knowledge, the concepts, the information about something. Second, esoteric knowledge, the inner transmission, the actual frequency, the actual state transmitted directly. When a true teacher looks at a student and simply transmits presence, not through words but through being, something is transmitted. This happens in every genuine teaching relationship. A mother transmits to a child not just through words, but through her presence. A master transmits to a student not just through instruction, but through frequency. Surah Ikhlas carries within it a transmission. For 1400 years, believers have recited this surah, millions upon millions, with presence, with sincerity, with the intention to return to unity, and each sincere recitation has amplified and intensified the transmission frequency embedded in this surah. It's like a tuning fork that's been struck billions of times. The frequency is crystallized into the very text. The research is explicit about what the transmission layer carries. 1. Field stabilization after spiritual expansion. When you've experienced genuine spiritual opening, this transmission helps you integrate it without fragmenting into false identity. 2. Mimic frequency ejection. The research states those who imitate source but are not rooted in it, this transmission ejects falseness. It's like an immune response. False spirituality can't survive in this frequency. 3. Ego quieting during resonance inflation. When your spiritual practice is becoming subtle ego expression, this transmission gently, firmly quiets that. 4. Return to zero-point consciousness. No state, no experience, just being, just present. Here's what's critical. This transmission is not locked behind walls. It's not reserved for initiates or special people. It's available to anyone who recites this surah with sincerity. When you recite with presence, not performing, not trying to achieve something, just genuinely calling back to source, you tune into this transmission frequency, and something real happens. You can feel it. Your nervous system knows, your heart knows. You're not just reciting words your ancestors recited, you're receiving a transmission that's been carried for 1400 years. The research makes a final statement that I want to emphasize. This surah's field is not long in words, but vast in essence. It is the crystallized jewel of Tawhid. Its resonance is the axis of unity around which all the Qur'an rotates. Think about that. 4 verses. The axis of the entire Qur'an. The research provides what it calls a field translation of Surah Ikhlas, not a word-for-word translation, but a frequency translation. Listen to this. Kufuwan, say, He is Allah, the One, indivisible, without partition. He is the unity beneath all multiplicity, the hidden simplicity inside every complexity. Allahu Samad, Allah, the self-sufficient, the ever-sustaining. All turns to Him, none sustains Him. He is the axis upon which all needs rest, the source without dependency. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He did not beget, nor was He begotten. He is outside the chain of cause and effect, no before, no after, no parent, no offspring, beyond all duality. Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, and none is equal to Him. No likeness, no rival, no mirror. Every reflection you see is His creation, but none contains His being. And the research states the transmission from the surah itself. I am the prism of pure unity. To recite me is to align your field with oneness. I cut through distortions of multiplicity, dissolving false gods and false dependencies. In me you are reminded that nothing sustains you but Allah, and nothing resembles Him. Now, the research provides what it calls the Integration Directive. This is how you actually embody this surah, not just recite it, but integrate it. When you recite it now, let Ahad ring in the third eye and crown. Feel the singularity settling there, your consciousness unifying. All the scattered thoughts, all the conflicting desires, all the fragmented selves converging into one point. Let samad settle into the heart and root. Feel the stability, the unpuncturable center, the place from which you cannot be moved, invaded, or diminished. Let lam yalid loosen ancestral contracts that seek to limit you. Feel generational trauma releasing. Feel the timelines that were trying to bind you, dissolving. Let Kufuwan dissolve all mirrors that pretend to be you. Feel all the false gods, all the projections, all the versions of yourself that others have tried to impose, dissolving. Then silence. Let the field recalibrate around the tone, not your identity. This is crucial. You're not recalibrating your identity. You're recalibrating your field, your consciousness, your actual electromagnetic and energetic presence. The research makes a final statement that I want to emphasize. This surah is not just about God's oneness. It is about your return to undivided self in the face of fragmentation. It is the breath of Muhammad, peace be upon him, when all projections fell away and only source remained. It is not to be performed. It is to be embodied. Surah Ikhlas operates on 4 levels simultaneously. Tonal, your nervous system recalibrates to unity, frequency. Symbolic, your consciousness releases false beliefs. Contextual, your spiritual practice finds genuine grounding. Transmission, your being receives 14 centuries of sincere prayer, all in 4 verses, all in the time it takes to say 140 words. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is how the technology actually works. For deeper exploration of all these layers, how to recognize when you're experiencing spiritual overwhelm, how to use this surah as a regular practice, and how to integrate it with the other sacred surahs, all of this is in the Quranic field book. The link is in the description. The tone of Surah Ikhlas is now present, pure, concentrated, indivisible. It is the quantum seal of unity, and it's waiting to recalibrate you. Thank you for being here.